hit the record button. So, okay, welcome everyone. If you could mute too, when you arrive, appreciate that. I'd like to welcome you to this introduction and orientation. Could somebody mute? This introduction orientation to the Empathy Circle Facilitation Training. And this is also a practice session for the Empathy Circle. I'm Edwin Rutch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'm located here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I started the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and the center is the largest has the largest website for empathy-related material on the internet. We have all kinds of different projects to work at building a more empathic society, and that's what our vision is really to raise the level of empathy in the world. And it's just that the idea is that if we can raise the level of empathy in the world, we'll just create more.
You muted yourself, Edwin.
Had like an auto mute there. So it just automatically did it on its own. Zoom, stop muting me. So our vision, as I was saying, is for building a more empathic culture. And let me just give you a little bit of overview of what we're going to be doing. And here, let me do a screen share of an outline. So this is our agenda today. We're doing the welcome. That's what I'm doing right now. When we have smaller groups, we do participant introductions, but we'll skip that because we have such a large group. Then I'll be reviewing the training, give a little bit of intro about the training. Then we'll have some questions and answers. Then we'll go into reviewing a short video, 6-minute how to take part in an empathy circle. And then we'll have a full group debrief. And that's what we'll be doing today. And as I was mentioning, our vision is to build a more empathic society. And we have a lot of different projects for doing that. And one of them is the Empathy Circle practice. So the Empathy Circle is based on empathic listening, or also called active listening or reflective listening. And we find it's one of the most effective first step gateway practices for building empathy skills. So if you're a counselor or a mediator, or in many fields in the healthcare, you've had experience probably with active listening. And what we do is use mutual empathic listening in the Empathy Circle practice. And so what I'm going to do is, and what we're also going to be covering is we have the Empathy Circle, and then we have the Empathy Circle Facilitation Training. And what I'll be doing is reviewing the training, giving a little bit of an overview about the training. But to get started, we have 4 facilitators here. So I just do a quick introduction of the facilitators. Graham, would you like to just say why you're interested in the Empathy Circle and the training?
Hello, everybody. I'm very interested in the Empathy Circle because it teaches me to connect with people. And that's something that's been a real deficit in my life. It's also helping all sorts of other things. The better my relationships are, the better my health. And so there's a lot of benefits that are coming out of this. And that in a nutshell is why I'm interested. So thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Lou, would you like to share?
Yeah. So I've taught conflict resolution and communication skills for a long time. And what I love about the Empathy Circle practice is that people learn to listen and to speak just because of the structure of the practice without a lot of instruction. And it interrupts our normal bad habits of listening and speaking. Just the structure of it does that. And so it's an amazing learning tool.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, well, I've been working with Edwin for about 4 years now. I really feel that it starts to change a lot of our assumptions were overly, I believe, we're overly defended against others. And we realized that really what benefits us all is to come together in community and cooperation. And this sort of gives people an experiential experience of that. Sorry for being redundant. Thanks.
Redundancy is fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is give a short review of the Empathy Circle training. And there's a website. Actually, I'm going to put the link in. You don't have to go there because I will be showing that, doing a screen share. So this is going to just review the website for the Empathy Circle training. So if you go to this website, you'll see, and if we could mute people. Yeah, so this is our website, the introduction to the Empathy Circle training. So all the material about the training is here. And I'll just scroll down, sort of review this quickly, and then we can have a little bit of Q&A about it. So this is our module 1. It's a 5-session, 2.5 hours a week. And it's a good site to bookmark here, and you can review it on your own. This is an open source training. So really, if you're familiar with open source software development, it's that anyone can use the training. We're really trying to spread it and make it available so you can use and sort of spread it, and we just want to make it as accessible as possible, because our overall goal is to teach everyone in the world, how to take part in an empathy circle, because we just feel it'll have a real positive benefit for everyone. It's a really good first step gateway practice. You can donate if you would like, but the training is free, so it is by donation. If you had to pay for this training, it'd probably be $250, $300 at least, if it was a commercially available training. If we go down, getting started, you can see we have multiple introductory cafes. We have one today. That's what this one is an intro to the training. And we also have them sometimes on Saturdays and also on Mondays, so you can see the upcoming schedule. And you just clicking through to this Facebook event. To take part in the training, we ask that you take part in at least 2 empathy circles as a prerequisite. So taking part today counts as taking part in an empathy circle. And so you can take it again next week. And if we can keep muting people as they come in. You can also just hold your own empathy circle. The instructions are here for how to take part, and you can just hold it with your family and friends, and that counts as well. The time commitment for taking part in the training is 2.5 hours each week. Plus, we usually have about 20 to 25 participants in a cohort. And we try to get y'all to connect with each other in the cohort. So between sessions, you have an empathy buddy for half an hour. So you get a chance to connect and do one-on-one empathic listening with each other. It's really good for building mutual support. And as a facilitator, it's good to have those empathy buddies to support you. And also we ask that you take part in that you try to facilitate an empathy circle during the week and then report back on how it went. The training path, you can take the training multiple times. We have people who have taken it 5, 6, 7 times. You start off as a participant, just taking the training. Then when you feel ready, you can become a trainee, which is learning how to give the training. And then after you've done that a while and held some empathy circles on your own, you can become a trainer of it and start training others in the practice. And if we scroll down, you can see the sign up is we have 2 cohort series, and as demand rises, we can also add more. We have one on Saturdays. That one just started. And so the next one is scheduled now for October 30th for the start date. And then we have another one, cohort 13, which is on Mondays. We're just doing the last one next Monday, and then we'll have some open empathy cafes like today during that time slot. And then the next cohort starts September 20th. So you can sign up, just click through any of these links. You can sign up, find out more about the cohort and the details. And there's a sign up page and application for it. So if you keep scrolling down, this is one of our previous cohort, that's cohort 5. We like to do our little jazz hands at the end for our group portrait. We have each session, there's an outline of what you can expect in each session. You can click through there, and we have different topics that we cover in the training, like the values of a culture of empathy, the values of empathy, mutual empathy, openness and care, as we see as our being 4 core values to making a more empathic society. There's instructions for how to and support. And in the training, you'll learn about challenges. You'll actually it's very experiential. So we don't do a lot of theoretical work. It's more getting you right into facilitating an empathy circle, and then seeing what challenges come up and learning to address those challenges. And there's all kinds of other links, and you can go down, see the empathycircle.com, one of our main websites, the Culture of Empathy site, and our empathy tent. And these are all different projects that we do. So that's just a very short overview to give you a little idea about the training. And so I'll just open it to any questions. So if you want to do a question about it, just raise your hand, or ideally there's a little button down there somewhere where you can raise your hand. I'm not sure where is that?
On reactions.
It's
Reactions. Yeah, hit the reactions, and then it's just
It says raise hand. Yeah.
raise hand. So yeah. So any questions about that, the training?
guess you're just too clear, Edwin.
I know, I'm always amazed. I think I was going to be all these questions, and it's like, yeah, it was pretty clear. Always amazed. Do you want to add anything, Bill, Lou, or Graham, about the training while people decide if they want to ask questions?
No, just that it's designed so that you could go at your own pace and take it several times. So, if you have some performance anxiety, really don't worry about it. That's all.
Actually, I
I'm
just had
muting.
one thing to add about the money part. You were saying that the training's free, but people can make a donation. People should just be aware that it's an all volunteer. This is an all volunteer effort.
Any final comments, Graham?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, well, great. So if there's no questions about the training, I'll show you that we have a 6-minute intro video. And we have a large group. I don't think we're going to have enough facilitators. So we might want to do a fishbowl. So we'll have to decide on that. So let me just show you that. So these are the instructions. If you go to empathycircle.com, you'll see more instructions there. This is a sort of a minimal instructions. Oh, let me stop that for a second, just for bandwidth. I'm going to turn my video off. Okay. So hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I'd like to welcome you to this short presentation on how to take part in a basic empathy circle. So next, let's look at the step-by-step how to take part. An empathy circle starts with 2 to 7 participants. Here on the screen, we have 4 participants, which I find is an ideal number. There are 4 basic roles, and the roles rotate among the participants as the empathy circle unfolds. 1, the speaker, is the first person to speak. 2 is active listener who actively listens to the speaker. There's the silent listeners, they quietly observe and witness. And the facilitator who organizes, schedules, and hosts the circle. They also do the timekeeping, and they have some experience with the process and help keep participants in the process. However, everyone has the responsibility to hold the process and the practice. So to begin with, the facilitator will start the empathy circle. They welcome the participants. They lead introductions if the participants don't know each other. The facilitator invites participants to give short introductions, for example, their name, where they're from, and something personal about themselves. The facilitator then reviews the empathy circle process to remind everyone how it works. They announce the discussion topic if there is one. Even if there is a topic, you can always talk about what is alive for you. That is what is on your mind in the moment. And 5, they set the speaker time limits, perhaps 5 minutes, for example. And the facilitator then asks who would like to start to be the first speaker. So at that point, the participant volunteers to be the first speaker. As speaker, you select who will be your active listener, and you can select anyone that you want. You speak about the topic given or whatever is alive for you, and so you'll speak a bit until you have maybe expressed an idea or two, and then you want to pause to give the active listener a chance to recap what they understand that you are saying and feeling. If you say too much, the listener may have difficulty in reflecting it. As the active listener, you are listening to the speaker to get an understanding of what they're saying and what is important to them. You are giving them your full attention as a supportive companion on their inner journey and exploration. When the speaker pauses, you recap your understanding of what they said and how they feel by reflecting the essence of that in your own words. You can summarize, paraphrase, or even say the speaker's words back to them. Even though you may have a strong impulse to respond with your own ideas, judgments, analysis, advice, and sympathy, or even questions, resist the impulse to do so because these common responses block the speaker from moving along their internal journey. You'll be able to say whatever you want when it is your turn to be the speaker. If you don't reflect the understanding to the speaker's satisfaction, they can always say it again. Then as speaker, you check, do you feel understood to your satisfaction? If you do not feel understood, you can say it again, perhaps in different words. If you do feel understood, continue sharing. Again, after speaking a bit, pause to give your active listener a chance to recap their understanding of what you said. As the active listener, you again share your understanding of what the speaker said and meant. The cycle of speaking and reflecting continues until you, as the speaker, do not have anything else you'd like to say, or until you get a signal from the timekeeper. If you get a signal from the timekeeper, then finish up what you're saying in a sentence or two. After you get a final reflection, you can end your turn by saying something like, "I feel fully heard," or something like that to indicate you are done with your speaking turn. At that point, the roles then rotate. The active listener becomes the speaker. The person they select becomes the new active listener. For everyone having equal time, it is good to select someone that hasn't spoken lately, but it is your choice. The others in the circle become the silent listeners. This process of taking turns in speaking and active listening continues for whatever time is allotted for the empathy circle. And this was just a very short introduction. The best way to learn the practice is taking part and doing it. There is more in-depth material on taking part in an empathy circle and facilitating one at empathycircle.com. Thank you for listening. Okay, so that's the basic instructions for how to take part in an empathy circle. So what I thought we could do is start with who would like to actually take part in an empathy circle. And if you raise your hand, we can start with a little fishbowl. So I don't know, Lou, would you be willing to facilitate a fishbowl to begin with? We'll do maybe a 15,
Sure.
20-minute fishbowl, and then people can get a sense of how it works. And then we can actually divide into empathy, smaller groups if we decide to do that. So we have, I see Maria's got hands up. So just put your hand up if you're willing to take part, and put it. What's that button again?
It's under the
Reactions.
Yeah.
Reactions, and that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, hit the reactions button. There, I just saw it. And then you can add your hand. You can raise your hand, and that just indicates that you're willing to take part in a model.
And I'll put my hand up too. So
and put your
find
hand
easily.
up. And and I'll put our topic in. Let's see, do everyone in the circle. And so the question, our topic question is, hopefully that went in. Did that show up, that question? Why are you
Yes.
interested in empathy, in the empathy circle and in the training, or whatever is alive for you? So you can always talk about just whatever is going on in your life. And so Lou, take it away for.
Okay, thanks. So, so are we including Stephanie? So I have Rose, Alex, Mariah, Edwin, and Stephanie. Is that right?
Jaya, Maria, yeah, and Alex.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus me.
6.
6. That's a lot.
Oh,
Okay.
counting me. So I'll
Okay.
turn mine off. So
Okay, good. So thank you, Rose, Alex. Is it Mariah? Is that, am I saying the name right? Rose, Alex, Mariah, and Stephanie. Is that right? Okay. Yeah, so why don't you all unmute, unless you have some background noise where you are. And I'd like to start. So do any of you have any questions about the process before we go ahead and do it and begin it?
I have no questions.
Okay.
No question for me.
Okay.
And can
Great.
you leave your hand up too, just because we're going to be talking to each other, and then you'll be able to see each other easier, because it'll put everyone to the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, great. No questions. So, so I just want to say, as a facilitator, I just want to mention a few things that I might do as a facilitator while the circle is happening. So first, I'll be keeping time, and because the speaking turns are timed, and I'll be keeping them on my phone, and a buzzer will, not a buzzer, a chime will go off when the time is done. So if you hear that, just finish up whatever you're saying and get a reflection. If I think, because sometimes the way audio works on Zoom, you know, you won't hear it. If I think you're not hearing it, I'll hold it up like this so that you can, so it's a visual cue that the time is up. Another thing I might do as a facilitator is remind the speaker to pause. So pausing is not something we normally do in regular conversation, and so it's easy to forget to pause when you're speaking. And the idea is, once you get an idea or two out, that you would pause. And so if you forget to do that, I'll remind you. I'll say, could you pause there? And that's so that, because if the reflector is, if it's too much for the reflector to take in, it'll be hard for them to reflect back. Another thing I might do is remind the listener if they're doing something other than just reflecting back what they understand the person's saying. In other words, if you fall into asking questions or making comments, agreeing or disagreeing, which is easy to do because that's also very natural. I'll just remind you that your role is to just reflect back what you're hearing. And I think that's it. I mean, if somebody is having a big problem reflecting, then I might assist with that. Other than that, those are the primary things that I will do. So I'd like to start then, before we actually start the practice, I just want you us to connect a little bit as a group. So if I would like each of us to share, maybe where we are physically, and then how you're feeling at this moment, and then something that you love. And I'll start. So I'm Lou, and I'm in California, Northern California in the United States. And right now I'm feeling a little nervous because it's a very big group. And it's kind of odd to be doing this with just the little teeny squares. I can barely see you, but I'm excited. I'm also excited about being here. And something that I love is being in nature. I find that very restorative, and I just love being in nature. So who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie.
I'm in La Quinta, California, which is in the Coachella Valley. I love cats and water.
And how are you feeling? And how are you feeling right now?
How am I feeling? I'm feeling like it's Friday, so a little bit, fried, tired, and present.
Thank you.
I can go.
Thank you.
So I was born and raised in Chicago, a resident of Sacramento, California, and currently traveling throughout the country. So my present state is Indiana, Northern Indiana. And I love dogs, being out in nature. And I feel pretty peaceful right now.
Thank you, Rose.
Okay, I would like to actually go next. So, I think this is better for my camera. Yeah.
We can see you.
I am Alex Dane Fraser. I actually like to use all three of my name. I am from Guyana, that is located in South America. I'm feeling pretty calm, quiet at the moment. I'm very excited to learn about this empathy circle and what really is it about. So I can just take back this information.
Okay, thank you, Alex Dane Fraser. And is that everyone? No, Maria or Mariah.
I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm feeling rejuvenated right now because it is Friday. Payday for a lot of us, right? And the two reasons why I would like to facilitate empathy circles and learn how to do it is because I know that empathy in society is the future. It is the key to communicating effectively in the future, no matter where you're at. And as a child, I did peer mediation. I went through a lot of different disagreements. So I did peer mediation, and it allowed me to communicate effectively and bring people together no matter the differences. So I would like to transfer that to my business and to my workplace.
Thank you, Mariah. And what's something that you love?
My children.
Cool.
I just want to know, Mariah, could you raise your hand? Then it'll put you at the top with the whole group. It'll be easier to see you
Of course.
under reactions. Yeah.
And I missed
Okay.
hearing what you love, Mariah. What do you love?
My children.
Did you hear that, Rose?
No, I still didn't hear it.
She said her children.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, and I see Elizabeth has a question. I'm reluctant to interrupt the process. Can you hold your question till we're done, Elizabeth? Okay, thank you. So thanks everyone for doing that. So the topic The topic of the circle, Edwin, is why are you here to learn about empathy circles? Is that the topic?
Yeah, why are you interested? And I'll put it in, why are you
Okay,
interested
why are you
in
interested in this?
empathy circles in the training, or whatever is
Yes,
alive for you?
right. Yeah, so that's the topic. And as Edwin says, I want to remind everyone that when it's your turn to speak, you can speak about whatever's important to you, and that part of the keeping the circle alive and meaningful for you is that when it's your turn to speak, you do talk about what's important to you. Okay? So, so I'll be the first listener, just so you can see, you have a demonstration of what reflection is like in this setting or in this practice. Who is there? Someone who would volunteer to be the first speaker? Someone in the group? Mariah? Okay, great. I'd love to listen to you. And Edwin, we're going to do 4-minute turns or 5-minute turns?
I would do 4, I'd say, just for time.
Okay,
So
so
we can also, once we've done a round or two, we can open it up and others can come into the fishbowl too.
okay, I'll let you guide that. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So go ahead, Mariah. Go ahead, Mariah.
So as far as the importance behind it, and why I'm interested, it's mainly because I am a new small business owner. In my place of work, I've always helped small business owners in a consultant form. And a lot of times I'm able to transfer skills and knowledge just based off of the history that I had from the training I received as a child. So I
Okay.
think
So
that it's extremely important.
okay, great. So just let me reflect that much back. So what I'm understanding you're saying is that you're a small business owner, and part of your work is to support other small business owners in doing their business, and that the training that you had as a child, as I think you said, I can't remember if it was mediation or the training that you got, but it taught you a lot about communication, and you realize how important that is, and so you feel really strongly about learning more, like learning this practice. Yeah. So yeah. So go
Correct.
ahead. You can continue speaking.
As far as it being common, I I've learned, it really doesn't matter the age range. It's very uncommon. I think society has made a lot of us very callous, and we move in a robotic fashion. And so I think that the heart is still there just as much as the brain. So it's okay to use both of those tools to move forward in life.
Yeah. So what I understand you're saying there is that um, you think society, the way people get socialized, really has taught us to be kind of callous and to not be open-hearted and not really listen to each other. But you believe everybody still has that part of them, the heart part there, and it's ready to be used if we exercise it or if we connect to it. And so you think that that's really important, that we really need to do that.
Yes, I tell my employees and my agents reverse the desensitization that's taking place.
Yeah, so you talk to the people that you work with about reversing that desensitization that society has kind of taught us. Yeah,
Correct.
great. Is there more you'd like to say?
No, but it's a lot that I would like to hear.
Okay, so if you're feeling complete, you don't have to take your 4 minute, all of your 4 minutes. You have more time if you'd like to say something more, but if you feel complete, you can stop.
I'm good.
Okay, great. So then I become the speaker because I was the listener. So I become the speaker and I select someone else in the circle to reflect me. So I'll go to Rose. Would you listen to me? Great, thanks. Okay, uh, so I'm here this morning because for a couple of reasons. One, it's so inspiring to me to see all the people who are interested in learning more about empathy and in learning a practice that will help spread empathy skills and awareness out into the world. And so it kind of fills my heart and nurtures my soul to like be here and see that people are here to do that. So you're muted, Rose.
That helps. So I heard you say that you're here because you're inspired by empathy circles. You're excited about everyone here that's wanting to learn more about empathy circles. And I forgot the details. I'm a sum it up kind of person, but essentially that your heart is filled with the joy of being here and this topic, and everybody is here united in that cause that excites you.
Yes, seeing all the people, yes, who are willing
Thank
to
you.
do that. Yeah. So then another reason I'm here is because I really want to support Edwin's work with the Center for Culture of Empathy. He's been at this a very long time, and I think it's a very important thread of improving the world. And I was aware that more and more people have been coming to this meeting, and I wanted to make sure there were enough facilitators that people could actually experience this process. So that's another reason I'm here.
So you want to be able to support Edwin's work because it's a thread in the path of improving the world, and you wanted to make sure that there's plenty of facilitators out there that can move this work forward.
Yes, and that there's actually enough facilitators here today so that we could, so that the people that came to the session could experience the process.
Enough here today so that plenty of people can experience the process. Got it.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for hearing that. Yeah, and then the other thing about Empathy Circle practice, I mean, one of the reasons I love it so much, and I kind of said this a little bit in my introduction too, is that I love the simplicity of it and how just this little bit of structure helps people feel heard and helps people learn how to listen to each other.
Mm-hmm. So you love the empathy circle process because just by a little bit of effort, it creates a lot of results where people really feel heard and empathy is there.
Yes, and it isn't so much the effort as it is the structure. I've done communication for a long time and like tried to teach people about listening and all different aspects of listening and disconnection and stuff like that. And it's great how this process teaches people to do that with actually not a lot of instruction, just a lot of experience. And I think that's beautiful and kind of magical.
Yeah, it's beautiful and magical that with just that little bit of structure, they can get a lot out of it is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Let's see, is there anything else I want to say? Oh, that's my time. Okay, thank you for hearing me so well.
Thank you, Lou.
Okay. So you're the speaker now.
Oh, I am? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the listener?
No, you select someone else in the circle who hasn't spoken yet to be your listener.
Okay, Stephanie.
Is that all right with you, Stephanie? Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. Well, just hearing the word empathy circle intrigued me when I saw this notice because I feel like all of my life I've always lived and dreamed of a world where everybody feels united in kinship in some way. And so empathy is a very bonding source to do that.
You're muted, Stephanie.
Yeah, you're muted.
So what I heard, Rose, is that seeing Empathy Circle intrigued you, and that was because you have a desire for unity in the world, and you can see that empathy is a big part of having that happen.
Yeah. And kinship, it's not only unity, it's unity in kinship. For me, as a 4-year-old girl that dreamed and imagined a world where everybody felt like family, that was important to me. And so I've lived my life doing things that would help propel people to be close to each other in groups and circles all my life. So it's such a joy to see that this is being moved forward in such a powerful way.
So how I'm hearing that, Rose, is that you have a vision for humanity as family and a recognition that we're all family, and that you see this process potentially moving that forward because that's something that you've been up to your whole life.
Yeah, it's really a joy and pleasure to see others that are also have that same the same hope in their hearts too, so to speak. So that's a really delightful thing to see. And I commend you, Edwin, for the work that you're putting forth and creating these facilitators. Listening, oh, I'll let you go ahead.
So I'm also hearing that it's encouraging, and you're heartened by the fact that there are so many other people who want the same thing as you or want to participate in that kind of world and creating that kind of world. And you want to congratulate Edwin for the work that he's doing and his contribution to that.
Yeah, so anytime I can take part in something that contributes into the world in this way, it's a joy to do so. So here I am.
So anytime, any way that you can contribute to that vision, it's a joy for you to do so. And that's why you're here.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is I'm a small business owner too, Mariah, like Mariah. And so I do coaching, consulting, and teach. And so it's a pleasure to always add nuances and new textures to what I'm bringing to my clients. So I'm always expanding my learning in that way.
So the other thing is, given that you're a small business owner, coach, teacher, consultant, that you're always looking for ways to sort of expand your repertoire and what you're able to give to your clients to help them in their endeavors. And this is part of that as well.
Yeah. And I would say anything that feels like transforming from the inside out, which being empathetic definitely is, then I'm all for it.
Do I get to reflect that, or?
Yeah, go ahead and reflect it.
So for you, when it feels transformational, that for you is what kind of jazzes you, and that you're all for that. You want to have that happen as much as you can.
Yes, thank you so much for listening.
Of course.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Stephanie, it's your speaking turn now.
Okay, so let's see. So it's Lou, Rose, Mariah. Those are my choices, right?
Alex and Alex.
Where's Alex?
Yeah.
I don't see him.
Yeah, actually, I don't either.
He's been dropping in and out. I think his connection. Are you available, Alex?
Yeah, I don't see him.
Okay.
He just moved up to raised
Oh,
his
I
hand.
see.
Do you hear
I
us,
see.
Alex? Yeah. So.
Well, I'm gonna choose Mariah because I can actually see her live.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So why I'm interested, and it's funny, it's something you said, Lou, about a little bit of structure. And for me, it's about efficiency. I'm a certified mediator. I'm an attorney in 2 states, and I also am a manager in the court system and a coach. And I've done a lot of work with people around listening. For me, when I look at the world, what I see is the ego in fear and people wanting to be right and wanting to correct rather than connect, as a friend of mine says. And that distinction is huge. I think when people can connect from the heart, they're much more willing to come back to residing in their own humanity. And I'm going to let Mariah go. I saw to remember to pause there.
You're muted, Mariah.
All right. So, Stephanie, just to recap, it sounds as though you need structure to feel efficient. You have many talents. You wear many hats as a lawyer, a mediator, a coach, and you specialize in not just listening, I believe, but active listening. Um, Fear and ego definitely makes people want to be right versus taking a diplomatic approach. And by connecting from the heart, you understand based off of your experience and expertise that people are able to relate better.
Mostly.
Okay.
You're reflecting mostly what I said. And for me, I don't really need the structure at this point. I'm pretty clear about how to connect with people and how to listen to them. For me, the piece of the empathy circle is the fact, as Lou said, with just a tiny bit of structure, I can support somebody who doesn't have all of the training and background that I have to be able to listen in that way. And for me, that's a more efficient route to humanity getting it, because we desperately need to in the moment.
Yeah. So you want to go ahead and reflect that, Mariah? You're muted still. And if if people could mute their microphones, because I'm hearing noise from somewhere.
To summarize, you want to be transparent that you don't need structure based off your experience. You're good in that area. However, it's the connection with a tiny bit of structure from the empathy field that will allow you to be able to take a more effective approach.
I think so, yes. The only other thing is, as I'm looking at where the world is going, and frankly, my story right now is to hell in a handbasket, and hoping that there is the potential, and believing that there's a potential for reversal. I know that connection is the only thing there is. There's no universe where if I see the spirit, the humanity, the divinity of the person in front of me, I can harm them. It's not, the two don't go together. And it's the absence of people's ability to see that, because they're in their heads being right about what they've made up that person is or who that person is, that is allowing people to inflict harm.
So maybe pause there, Stephanie.
Okay.
Oh, and that's the timer. So go ahead and reflect that back, Mariah.
So based off of what you've been through and where the world is going, you've been through hell in a handbasket. So you're hoping of a reversal of humanity, or inhumanity rather. So based off of the things that you've encountered and the things that you've seen, you don't believe in people hurting one another to get to a good end result.
So it is true that I've been to hell in a handbasket, and my story is humanity's going to hell in a handbasket at the moment. And really, I know that if people connect, they don't inflict harm. And so the more I can facilitate that, the better.
Yeah. So you just reflect that part, Mariah?
So to clarify the way society is headed based off of what you see daily, it is going to hell in a handbasket. So the goal is to make sure you're able to effectively reach people with this training to try and reverse that.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna add as facilitator that I was hearing Stephanie say that seeing each other's humanity is really what leads to that. Is that right, Stephanie?
Yeah. No question.
Okay, just want to make sure you got heard for that. All
And I
right.
just put in the chat that if you want to join the circle, just raise your hand, and that means that you're willing to be called on to listen, and then you'll get to speak. So we can sort of expand the circle a little bit. And I see Rich and Alex are there too.
Yeah. So Alex, are you there now? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am here now.
Okay, great. So it's Mariah's speaking turn. So Mariah, you want to speak to Alex?
Sure.
Okay. And
So,
Alex, is that all right with you? You be a reflector?
Yes, and that is okay with me.
Okay, go ahead.
all right. So in my path to getting my degree as a teacher, I've learned from being a trainer in the workplace that, especially because it was a call center environment, that empathy, it really goes first in all situations. And I'll let him reflect.
Thank you, Mariah.
Okay. So what I gather is that during your path of becoming a teacher, you were taught about empathy and the importance of empathy, especially within the workplace.
Correct. And, you know, I was able to work with children, which was greatly different than working with adults. And that's where I learned that there's a gap with us, you know, adults with empathy. And I'll let you reflect.
Okay. And is that you have understand the gaps between when it comes to adults and empathy compared to children, compared to working with children.
Correct. Now, what was very alarming to me is that I've probably been out of high school about 15 years now. And when I was in school, bullying was common, but now it's kind of out of control.
Okay. During your time in high school, which was 15 years ago, bullying was something like we would say like an everyday thing. It was very common back then. But however, in the process now, it is becoming way out of control and very difficult to manage.
Correct. And so when I started working with children, I would notice that there was always a group that still had empathy and had that innocence. And then a large majority had become so callous. And it's like the bullying is normalized now. And it hasn't been as much awareness towards it from adults that I believe should be there.
Okay. There are little awareness when it comes to adults and dealing with bullies because it is seen as something normal compared to even when the children, they are trying their best when it comes to empathy and be empathetic towards each other.
So in saying that, noticing that it's a little over a decade of time that has passed, and you know, now it seems like the children are losing it. It became extremely important to me not only to transfer it in the workplace, but to master it in all fields, because the children are the future. And it's our job to prepare them in the right ways to make sure society continues to prosper versus digress.
I went a little lost with this one, so I'm trying my best.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah,
That's all we
lost. So
all we do is try our best. Yeah, go ahead.
So even though it has become so normalized now, right, we still need to work along with children and guide them on different aspects so that they will understand that bullying is wrong and is not something we should accept.
Correct. We are the first teachers, any adult with any child around them. You know, we are the first teachers. And in order to make sure we move forward in a more productive way, working smarter and not harder, it's extremely important to make sure that we bridge the gap.
Okay. As adults, being the first teacher and the first role model, we need to set that very good example so that the future generation, the children, can understand the importance and how to go about acceptance and understanding each other.
Is that it, Mariah? Yes? Okay. I don't know if you can you see her, Alex? She held her thumb up. Yeah. Okay.
Good job, Alex.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks very much. So Alex, it's your speaking turn. And so we've completed, with this reflection, we've completed one cycle of the circle. Everybody's had a chance to speak and be a reflector. So, so now we just continue. Although in this setting with the Fishbowl, Edwin has requested we try to bring others in. But I would say it is Alex's speaking turn. So he hasn't had a speaking turn yet. So Alex, it's you can choose anyone as a reflector, whoever you would like to have as a reflector with the people that have their hands up.
Okay, I will choose you because I know you speak first, so I'm going to choose you.
All right, thanks. Go ahead.
When I started my psychology training years ago, it was extremely difficult to understand human psychology in different aspects of the adults and children.
Yeah, so I think you're saying you studied psychology and you started that a while ago, and that when you first started your studies, it was difficult for you to understand the difference between children and adults. Is that right?
That's correct. However, while doing the outreach, especially working along with children with disability and adults with disability, it become a little more easier for me to cope and to be able to do counseling for a person.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is, as you started to do counseling, you started to work with people with disabilities, adults and children, and then it became easier for you to do that work, working with that population. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yes, you got that right.
Okay.
A few years ago, I was to be a trainer to train the new set of persons who are coming into psychology, especially within my workplace. And at first, it was difficult because I've come from a different background. I'm now known as one of the best within my field. But being the trainer for me now is very much more excited than anything else because I'm getting to guide person along the different steps and how to do acceptance, not just with person with disability, but person who do not have disability.
Okay. So I think what I understand is that after practicing doing counseling or psychology for a while, you have become a trainer of new practitioners, and that you really enjoy that role. Actually, you enjoy teaching other people about how to do counseling or psychology, and you actually feel even maybe more comfortable in that role than in doing the psychology itself. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. However, due to COVID beginning last year, my field has shifted, and even though much of the training and the counseling now, I do more of community development on a wider aspect, which for me has really, my psychology training has really helped me to understand how to deal with persons within different communities and how to bring them for one common goal.
Okay, your audio broke up a little there, so I think I got it, but I might have missed some. But so what I think I understand is you're saying that COVID really disrupted your training, your practice of psychology, and or your training of individuals to work in that field, and so you shifted more to doing kind of broader community development, and that's really been wonderful. You've liked that, and that your psychology training has really helped you in doing that work of helping doing community development work.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And I will be taking a new task which is basically dealing with disaster management. Because working within the community in a wider aspect, we must understand how to train personnel to manage any form of disaster.
Okay, so the timer just went off, so your time's up. But I think what I got in this last piece was that what you've been focusing on lately is community disaster work, helping the community prepare for disasters. Is that right?
That's right.
Great. Thank you. So do you feel heard? Alex, did you feel heard for what you were trying to say?
Yes, I feel heard, and everything was basically rich. You give a very comfortable
Okay, great.
along all the way.
Great. Thanks. Okay, so in the spirit of bringing another person into the circle, I'll select Rich to be my reflector. You willing to do that, Rich?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, well, and I'll just pause and say, so one of the reasons to, and I'm calling a timeout on the empathy process. One of the reasons to do this process with 4 people or 5 people and to go around multiple times is because the kind of magic of empathy circles starts to happen on the 3rd or 4th speaking turn. And so we are disrupting that a little by bringing new people into the listening, but we're going to do it anyway. But I just wanted to make people be aware of that it isn't speaking one time and being heard one time that really starts to make a difference. It's actually being heard multiple times and going around and around with people, with the same people. So I just want to point that out. Okay. So thanks, Rich, for being willing to be my listener.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So what do I want to talk about?
You should talk about the thing that you were going to talk about, but you decided not to, but you should bring it up anyway.
Yeah. So I just need a minute of silence to figure out what I want to say. Thanks. Well, so truthfully, what I'm experiencing in this moment is what happens to me almost every time I introduce people to empathy circles, which is I get very moved by witnessing people who don't know each other and who just have come together, sitting and listening to each other carefully and trying to reflect back what they understand is important to the other person. It's such a beautiful thing, and it always really touches my heart to witness it.
So the process that we're going through now that you've been involved in for a while is one of inspiration for you and actually touches your heart and maybe even brings a smile to your face.
Yeah, and it's not so much kind of the larger frame of what happens in the big world as a result of this. It's like what's happening now in this circle, like witnessing these people listening to each other and trying to understand each other. It's so rare that actually happens in life that I get to see people listening to each other carefully and just trying to understand what the person's saying. And it's sad that that's rare, but it's true.
So in the moment of the conversation, you get a lot of joy out of the connection that happens in the present without any past or future. It is what's happening right now.
Yes, and also the rarity of actually just seeing people quietly listening and trying to understand each other. That I don't see that happen very much, or not enough. Yeah.
Right. And so you appreciate the rarity in its application in the moment, and hoping that perhaps we could become less rare.
Yeah. And actually it's not so much I was having aspirational feelings in the moment, but actually I was experiencing some sadness. So that there's both a mixture of joy in witnessing it and then sadness in recognizing that, this doesn't happen very often. So it's interesting to have both those feelings in the same moment.
So bittersweet, at least.
Yeah. So if you could reflect that back, I'd appreciate it.
So you have two things going on with the conversation. One is the appreciation that it's actually happening, and the enthusiasm that you get from that, and yet a feeling of sadness because it doesn't happen as often as we might want.
Yeah, thank you for hearing that. That feels really good. What else do I want to say? I'm feeling a lot of gratitude for Alex for connecting in from somewhere so far away and for persisting in connecting back into the environment when he was having some kind of a technical problem. And I'm also, and so I just so appreciate his presence here. It's so important, particularly when people connect in from diverse cultures and even people whose first language isn't English, maybe, and they still connect in to try to do this. That's so beautiful and so necessary.
So an appreciation from a standpoint of Alex, because there was a persistence in making sure that he was here from afar with all of the possible barriers. He overcame them, and you appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah, because his presence is so important. Thank you. My time's up, and I feel very heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's your speaking turn, Rich.
Oh, okay. Let's go to Rose, if you would mind. Okay.
You're muted, Rose.
Oh. Hi,
My
Rose.
pleasure.
Okay,
Hi.
thank you. Thanks for listening. Okay, what's on my mind of late? I'm recently retired from organizational development and mediation and conflict resolution in general, ADR, and working for different organizations. And I have come to realize that there is an extraordinary gap between organizations, their mission statement, and what they espouse that they are, and what they actually accomplish in practice. So I'm finding a frustration in organizations in general, and maybe some folks that are hypocritical in their expression of the values that they state.
Okay, so let me see if I can grasp all of that. So you're retired, and you had a career in organizational development. And one of the things that's striking you or that you are noticing and have noticed, is that there's a big difference between the mission statements of these organizations and then what they actually do, what they espouse to doing. And this is where I've become fuzzy, and there's some disparities in the values that they say they hold. So did I miss something?
No, pretty close. It's not necessarily the mission that they're missing out on, or the vision even, but it's the set of values that organizations hold that essentially say, this is who we are with one another and our customers. And yet, the expression of the values espoused is very much lacking in observation. And that, for me, is a pain. It's hypocritical, and it brings up a sense of shallow and superficiality for me in organizations in general.
So it's not as much about the mission statement, but really about the values that they espouse to, that are, for lack of better words right now, that are not being actionized or not being lived within the organization. And that's something that's, a pain to you, because that's where you're really struggling in. Yeah.
Yes. And even more so than that, there doesn't seem to be a mechanism whereby one can bring up a perceived misalignment between who we say we are and who we actually are in practice. There doesn't seem to be a communication network to say to someone, to make the organization better, this is who we say we are over here, and yet I see this behavior over here. Can you help me understand the gap, there
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be a way to address it.
So there doesn't seem to be a mechanism or any kind of communication network that can help an organization to fill that gap between what they say they're about and what they actually do.
That's right. That's exactly
Got it.
right. And so I would like you, well, yes, that. And so I'd like from you to tell me what sort of emotion you perceive coming from me as I'm telling you the story. And I know I'm going out of phase here. I'm sorry.
So I hear you saying you'd like your feelings reflected. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So Rose, could you, even though he didn't explicitly say something about feelings, could you make an empathic guess?
I would guess that there's a sense of low-level frustration, but it's transmuted to more about a passion.
Yeah. It's not low level, but yes.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Yes. It is very frustrating. Oh, okay.
And I didn't, the timer kind of went off weirdly. So yeah, so that is your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if
Thank
anyone
you.
would like to join the circle, just raise your hand under the reactions and then you can be called on. Just listen.
So did you feel heard, Rich?
I did.
Great.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Rose.
great. All right, Rose,
My pleasure.
your speaking turn.
Ah, okay. Well, how about Alex? Wait, there's others that are now, and I can
Yes.
pick others too. Okay.
Thank you for noticing that, Rose. Yeah, so in the spirit of bringing other people in, you might pick someone else that's raised their hand that hasn't
Okay.
listened yet.
Sefali,
Yes, hi.
are you okay with listening to me?
I am, absolutely.
Thank you. So I feel like so much has stirred in me since listening to all these different conversations. And what's just sitting with me right now is I am, as I mentioned before, I've been a lifelong liver, if you will, of a world that can unite in kinship. And I'm right now working on my doctorate program. And I'm contemplating my dissertation that's going to be centered on kinship. And I'll let you summarize that first.
So, Rose, what I heard you say is that you're currently working on your doctorate and the dissertation might have an idea of really thinking about focusing on the kinship amongst humanity. And this conversation has impacted you in a deep way where it's stirred some thinking around that for you.
Yeah, it's stirring more ideas and making more connections for me about the wider applications of a concept of kinship that I imagine. And basically, I want to write my dissertation in a way that can help organizations, similar to what Rich is talking about, fill that gap to create unity and community out of the diversity. And for me, that is enveloped or embedded in this idea of kinship for all, even in the workplace.
So what I heard you say is that this idea of finding and implementing systems for bringing up unity and like valuing the diversity in our workplace and really coming from an empathetic approach using the kinship model that you've kind of lived throughout your life has a wider application than you initially envisioned.
Yeah, sort of. It's really unity and community, right? Which is another way of saying connection. But essentially, you know, what we say that we are about in the world, we get to live it, which is where I'm hearing Rich coming from. And what I'm proposing is that the mechanism to bring that balance of how we live, how we say we live and how we live, can be measured against the social bonds of kinship and and the fundamentals that it takes to do that. If we did that,
Maybe pause.
sorry.
It's okay. It's a lot.
It's really hard to summarize what you're saying, because what you're saying, it's true to the heart of the nature of human relationships. This
Yeah.
idea of connection and really thinking about how we connect and relate to one another, and the impact that has in our approach to living that vision authentically, and not
Yeah.
just saying the words, but actually living it through our actions.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that wasn't hard. You did fabulous. And just basically that, you know, that this model that I hope to bring about will have those pieces in it where an organization can measure and say, how are we doing in our culture of kinship here? How are we doing in our connectivity and living what we espouse to? So those are some of the things that I hope to bring about in my work through my university and my company.
So what I hear you saying is that sometimes the qualitative nature of human relationship needs to be quantified in a way that we can make it measurable for companies and other organizations.
Thank you for listening.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
So Sefali, it's your turn to speak if you would like, and you can select anyone that you'd like, and you might consider selecting someone who hasn't listened yet.
So Lou, I've been joining on this on Zoom call on a phone, so I don't see everyone that's participating in one screen. Would you kindly select the listener for me? And then I will start my talk once we decide on who my listener is.
Sure. So Tom is someone who raised their hand newly, who hasn't participated yet. So in the spirit of including people, how about I'll select him?
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay. Tom, is that all right with you?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
So I am joining this because one of the biggest things that I've always felt near and dear to my heart in the world of education, I serve teachers in a role of an instructional coach. And teachers delve in the idea of human relationship. That's the only way they can teach the kids that they serve. And we have this new focus on social emotional learning. And through pandemic, we thought that that was also a great and tangential, but really the heart of the work we need to do with teachers as well.
So Sefali, what it sounds like to me is you're going through some very exciting times and a very turbulent time with the pandemic. And so you're a teacher and you're starting up a new program to bring a little bit more brightness into the lives of students, to get them off the right foot and turn things around for them.
And I really think that some of these protocols and systems we put in place help to foster conversations that aren't sometimes natural or comfortable.
So you're trying to facilitate something that's much more empathetic, something much more enjoyable for your students, and then just, again, brighten their day a little bit more.
Yes, but also our teachers, because one of the things that we've had to really think about is how do we take care of the human in our teachers as we help them do the work of connecting with students and families.
Right. So you're looking to provide not only just for your students, but you're also looking to provide something that's beneficial for the mental health of both the teachers and the students. So something a little bit more wholesome for everyone. That's great.
And, you know, as we work in a very microcosmic kind of world, our world has become much smaller in this past, I would say, decade, with technology and transportation being so easy. I think it's important for people to appreciate the diversity that everybody brings to the table. And I think empathy and looking at connections helps people to do that.
So it sounds to me like you're under the impression and you think that the world is getting obviously smaller, and people are obviously thinking along the lines that the world is getting smaller, their social circles might be shrinking. And so you're looking to provide that much more connection amongst people in general, and empathy circles are one of the ways to do that. And that's great.
I've really appreciated learning from this group. And I think I agree with Rose's earlier assumption that the applications of this kind of skill set that we're trying to build and foster is beyond imagination right now.
So based off of previous sessions, and it sounds like you gravitated a lot towards what Rose was saying, and with this empathy circle, you've learned a lot more, and you're really optimistic of what's to come and what you've experienced today.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, so thanks, Tom, for listening. And I just want to point out that the 3 times that you said great, that is kind of evaluating what the person has said, and that's something that we try not to do in the circle. So
My apologies. My
just
apologies.
that's
First one.
fine.
Yeah.
I know it happens, and I don't mean it as a criticism of you. I'm just pointing it out as a way of kind of holding the practice and making sure that everybody understands. Yeah.
Okay, so don't label. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, don't evaluate. Again, the reflector is just reflecting back their understanding. They're not agreeing or disagreeing or approving or adding their own information or any of those things.
Okay,
Yeah.
appreciate that, Lou. Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay. Okay, so it's your speaking turn, Tom, and you can select anyone that's got their hand raised.
Cool. I might be joining this a little late. Who hasn't gone yet?
So actually, everybody with their hand raised that has a speaking turn, so you really can select anyone.
Okay. I mean, Lou. I mean, I think you're facilitating this. I'd love to get you're the master to work at it. That would be good. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Go
Cool.
ahead.
So this is my first session today, and I feel really grateful to be a part of something like this, like an empathy circle, as I'm working at a company right now, and it's come to my attention that I actually need to improve this as a skill set, and so I'm looking to get some honest feedback, and then also practice this skill myself.
Okay, yeah. So understand you're saying is that you're really grateful to be here and be learning this and trying this out, and that you at your work you've gotten some feedback that empathy or listening skills is something that you would like to improve on, and so you're here to learn and to practice.
Mm-hmm. And I was a little pessimistic at first, not pessimistic, but thinking that it's not totally necessary, or I could just, read a few paragraphs in a Wikipedia article. But after going through a bit of a Zoom call with you guys and seeing how people pay attention to one another, and then seeing how people then reiterate those same sayings or things that they've expressed right back to them with thoughtful representation, it's really nice to see, and it shows that people are very empathetic, and it is practical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're saying that you're sharing that you thought maybe when you decided that you wanted to learn more about listening and empathy, you thought maybe you could just learn about it by reading about it and it wouldn't take very much time. But being here and seeing people do the practice, actually listening to each other and reflecting back and seeing how that works, you realize that it's going to take more time and more practice, and that you've learned a lot already from witnessing what's happening here today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the main reasons why I did want to come and join this session was, primarily because I'm getting honest feedback from my boss and other people that, I need to learn a little bit more about empathy. But it's also navigating kind of the world right now by mode of, talking on Zoom calls, speaking largely through text. With so much, internet-based connection, I feel like there's a lot of disconnection in the world right now. Whether that's to my parents when they're on their social media and we're having a typical family dinner, or it's at the office where I work and I'm speaking to people hundreds or thousands of miles away. It's just trying to find the means to connect with them in a different way.
Yeah, so what I understand you're saying now is that while your interest in learning more about empathy and listening has to do with having gotten some feedback at work about needing to improve those skills, also in your personal life, there's and work life, there's a whole range of areas where you're recognizing that better listening and more empathy would maybe benefit you, or you would have more of the relationships you want, and that that a lot of interaction right now is on social media or through the computer and Zoom, and that there's a distancing element to that, and that contributes to disconnection for you. And so you're thinking that having better listening skills and more empathy capability will help create more of a connection across that distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's okay. You can give them one more thought if you want.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I've recently learned, I guess, of the definition by Brené Brown when it comes to her comparison between sympathy and empathy. And it seems like there's this new definition where it's more along the lines of driving connection versus disconnecting. So that's been a very, very interesting sort of mode of thought, and I think it's a beautiful redefinition of the words. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'm understanding you're saying that empathy for you means making connections with people, uh, and you love that idea, and you think that that's a beautiful thought.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. I will go to. So I want to do a time check. We're at just about 11:30. Edwin, how long are we holding the circle for?
You could speak one more time, then we could do a debrief. How's that?
Okay, although rather than me speaking one more time, I want to give someone
Let's
else
let
a
somebody
speaking
else
turn.
speak. Then whoever you speak to can
Yeah,
speak,
yeah.
and then
So I'll speak to Mariah, and are you willing to listen to me, Mariah?
I would be happy to.
Okay. And what I'm feeling right now is I'd rather give someone else a speaking turn rather than me taking another one. So I'd be very happy to hear you speak again, Mariah.
Well, thank you. What I'm
So,
hearing you say today, Lou, is that you'd rather give someone else the opportunity to talk because you like to hear what everyone has to say.
yes, thank you. And I feel done with my speaking turn.
Fair
Thanks for
enough.
listening to me.
No worries. Would you mind being the person to recap?
Oh, sure. And listen to you? Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
So let's see here. In terms of empathy, in sales, I learned that it's extremely important. So I come from a predominantly sales background, which initially started in face-to-face sales and then transitioned to call center work.
Yeah, so you've done lots of different kinds of work, and you are very aware that empathy is a really good skill for people in all different kinds of work. Is that right?
Correct. In working in a call center, transitioning from face-to-face sales to over the phone sales, I learned that it was a gap in empathy because when you see someone in person, you can read body language. There's a lot of different cues you get from just having a conversation with someone in person. But once I transitioned into being on the phone, it was hard for me at first because I had no ability to gauge people and people couldn't gauge me either.
Yeah, so you're saying that when you made a transition from doing sales face to face to doing sales on the phone, it was a big adjustment for you because you became aware that all the cues that you use to understand someone, like body language and facial expression, those were now gone and you didn't have them. And so it was much more difficult for you. But it also raised your awareness that these are parts of what help us connect and understand each other.
Absolutely. And when I learned what empathy meant, I always was able to have sympathy for people. Rose, I can relate to you as a 4-year-old girl at this point and at every moment in my life before, especially being a girl mom. So once I realized that empathy was different than sympathy, I learned that my area of opportunity was learning how to actively listen.
Yeah, so you're aware of the difference between empathy and sympathy, and you could really relate to Rose, what she said about being a 4-year-old girl, and sounds like you're also raising a girl yourself, so you understand this as a mom, and you're just really aware now of the importance of empathy, having empathy for people.
Correct. I learned that when you're making a sale with someone, especially another small business owner, the connection is very pertinent because you're helping someone make a vision come true. And in helping someone solve a problem, you have to be able to actively listen to provide the appropriate solution to really help that person not have to spend time on the same issue repetitiously.
Yeah, so you're saying as a salesperson that is trying to help someone solve a problem with their business as a part of making a sale, that you've really learned that empathy is really important, because understanding them fully and what their problem is part of what helps you find a good solution for them, a real solution for them, for their problem.
Correct. And empathy helps, I feel like, everyone understand the human aspect of not only the prospect or the person in front of them or on the phone with them, but it also helps you, look at yourself in a different manner, because rejection is something that I never had a problem with, but I had to learn to humble myself in the process of that transition. Because I would ask people, can you help me? If they said no, it was okay. Can you help me understand what was holding you back or what my area of opportunity is? So it was a learning experience for the both of us.
Yeah, so another important personal lesson that you learned from doing sales was the lesson of trying to understand when someone said no to you for a sale, trying to understand why they were saying no, and taking that feedback with humility and an openness to learning, and that was a great lesson for you, and you think it's important for people to understand.
Yeah, it's important with building connections for sure.
Yeah, important for building connections. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. All right.
Okay.
So go.
I was just going to say, so what we want to do is a debrief. I just put the question there. Take 30 seconds to share any learnings or insights from this empathy circle, or what did you like about the practice, or whatever's up, whatever you'd like to share. And I don't know, would
So
Bill,
are you talking about just the people who are participating in the circle,
everybody? We
Edwin,
just
or
want to go
everybody?
through
Okay.
and call on everybody so we can hear from everyone. Not everyone took part, but you were able to observe. So, speak from that perspective. I don't know, Bill or Ralph, do you want to call on participants? Are you up for that? Or Bill, you want to
Yeah,
go
sure.
through
I'll
and
call.
call? Sure, thanks.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's start with people, I guess, who are Elizabeth. You're muted, Elizabeth.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Okay.
So, just share any learnings or insights from the Empathy Circle, or what did you like? Just briefly, just your impressions.
Thank you very much, because today is the first time to see such a thing.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I'm so excited. Even my question has been answered. And I come from Nairobi, Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, this word, empathy, has come many times. And it looks like it was never in my vocabulary before. Mm-hmm. So now, in practice, I find it very interesting. I love working with the community, and in any way I can support them, because living in the city is not the same as living in the up country.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you for sharing. That was great. Safali?
Sorry.
Hello.
That's okay.
It just took me a minute to unmute.
No problem.
I really appreciated hearing the various perspectives that people brought to the table for not only how they currently use this practice in their existing roles, and but also projecting forward into how they see it being implemented in different settings. I think it really was eye-opening to see it in practice, because the protocol sometimes seems rigid if you look at it on paper, but in practice you can see that there's some fluidity and some true community being built.
Great. Thank you, Sefali. Rich Purnell.
There we go. Okay. One of the things that struck me once again is the universality of the need for connection. The human species. It doesn't matter where we come from. There's always this need for connection, and we always have this ego about us that stands in that way of actually connecting with folks. So once again, I've shown that the human condition, society in general, is a wonderfully marvelous, annoying entity sometimes, and the conscious focus of doing this kind of work has to be just that, a conscious focus, because it is not automatic.
Thanks, Rich. Cheryl?
Yes, thank you. What I've learned from this is how quickly people are able to enter into some level of intimacy and sharing. It's really astounding, and how the potential for growth is wonderful, and it's very exciting. I can't wait to connect with other people, and I also can't wait to see what this work is going to do to develop me as a person in my work as I move forward. This was lovely. I really enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you, Cheryl. Verilia, Verilia, if I mispronounce your name, please correct me.
Yes, it's Verilia.
Okay.
Yes, I'm really glad that I came to this today. I'm still sitting with the meaning of empathy, because I know the power of reflection, right? Of being heard. And I think for me in my work, right? And, and I work with marginalized communities where, people can reflect what they hear, but that understanding that, this is not okay, right? Or yes, that validation that, I just trying to figure out how we can do that, but also let the folks know that I see you in a way that, I may not have experienced what they've experienced, but I hear you, and I know that was hard to endure, I guess, is what I'm trying to sit with. How does that fit into this empathy circle? So that's what I'm getting. The reflection is wonderful, I get it. And that's what I'm sitting with, because for the folks I'm working with, they want to know that validation, right? That this is not okay, right? With what they're sharing with us, or what's happening to them in the world. It's not okay. And that we got them, or that we're allies, or we're working every day to be allies, or whatever, So I'm glad I came today. Thank you.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. Lisa. Are you there? Yeah, there you go. And you're muted, so.
Being here and seeing so many people join in this kind of work is, it's pretty astonishing. It gives me a lot of hope, and it makes me very curious as a teacher, how we can bring this into classrooms and schools and, help train human beings early on to do this sort of work, because I think it could save a lot of misunderstandings.
Great,
so thank
Lisa.
you.
Yeah, and that is, I'm a retired special education teacher, and that is actually a pet project of mine. And so on Thursdays, I have an empathy circle devoted to that. So I'll put my contact information. And for anyone, if anybody, because it does need to adapt it for the constraints of the time of a school day, just let me know. And I'll put that in the chat. But moving right along, Lynn Hamer or Hammer? Hamer, I'm going to guess.
Hamer.
Hamer.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank everyone for sharing and trusting us, to step out and speak and follow the process. I feel very grateful to be here. This is my first Empathy Circle. I would like to say I used to be described as the one who always had empathy, but I definitely learned a lot more being here today, and I'm looking forward to doing this again. Thank you.
Great. Well, we hope to see you again. Thank you. TR Richardson. TR, are you there? You're muted. Okay, we'll come back to you. Maybe he stepped away for a second. So I'll go into some of the participants here, and then Rose.
Well, I feel inspired. I feel encouraged that there's so many people that have affinity for this kind of work, for empathy. I've always said that it's the cure for narcissism in our world. And I really think that, what I'm struck with too is that there's just in doing it, there's also a shared learning experience that happens. And I feel like that there's this constellation of possible ideas that we can sort of grasp to. And that piece is something so delightful that, when brilliant minds come together like this, miracles can happen. And so that I'm really appreciative of, and just think that this is a marvelous work. So thank you.
Thank you. And good luck with passing statistics in your PhD. Stephanie.
Actually, so many things have happened for me during this whole process. The most recent was when Berlia was speaking. I really got this piece. One of my good friends is the person who filed the lawsuit against Larry Hogan to keep unemployment benefits from being stopped in Maryland. And she's a very policy-oriented person, right? And she's a lawyer who's on that side of it, the policy side of it. So there's this empathy side, the human connection side, we're all, kind of part of the same whole. And then there's how do we do things in certain environments that are going to facilitate something more like equity, affinity, kinship, unity, and the two have to go together. And what I'm getting here is that the empathy allows the opening to policies that would otherwise be rejected out of hand. There's a meeting in the middle that has to happen, and the two have to happen together. And I think it starts with empathy, because I think otherwise people are just committed to being right about how they have it, that it is, and it needs to stay that way. So I appreciate all these folks from all these different backgrounds coming together, not knowing one another, and being willing to open a bit of themselves to strangers. That gives me more hope than I've had in quite a while. And frankly, my 22-year-old son, who was just here, said, Mom, I don't have much hope for our generation. They're so very selfish. And I was trying to tell him, I really believe humanity is going to get it. We're going to get it. We will figure it out. We will come together. He's like, I don't think so. By the end of the visit, he was willing to consider it as a possibility. But when I go back and tell him about this experience, hopefully he'll know it as I do. So thank you all for that confirmation.
Thanks for sharing, Stephanie. All right, Mariah.
All right, guys. The biggest insight I've noticed is everyone's ability to feel comfortable enough to, openly express how being heard made them feel. Aside from the process itself, it's the feelings whenever you go through anything in life that resonates, you know? And I believe that this process is going to help all age ranges. And the biggest impact is our ability to understand our rights to have feelings and that we're not wrong for being human. And I believe with everyone working together to ensure through this training as we implement it in our daily lives, whether it's at home, in the workplace, or just, in the community, that we will help people and normalize, people creating a safe space through conversation, whether it be a complex conversation or a simplistic conversation, to build stronger relationships. And that impact itself, just being, able to feel okay with being empathetic is what moved me the most, aside from the fact that you guys are doing this, without any compensation. That's very important to me, because you don't find a lot of entities or people coming together with research and proven process, to help people, just to help people. And I believe that that's how society was in the beginning of time, when money wasn't even a thing. Money isn't even realistically. All we have is our hearts and our minds and what we do for one another. So I think that the overall impact and the, just the heart that you guys have to be willing to share this without expecting anything but us to implement it, it's quite impactful.
Thank you, Mariah. Alex Dane Fraser.
Yes, thank you. For me, when I first saw it on LinkedIn, I was like, what really is this about? And how will this benefit me? And seeing that everything mostly now is basically via Zoom, I said, let me connect and to get an understanding of it. So being a part of this session, I've really get to understand what really is the empathy circle, and how important it is that when we are reflecting on what somebody is saying, we're not adding anything, we're not adding whatever we believe should be added. So if passing on information, you pass on the exact information. So for me, this empathy circle was a really beneficial eye opener, and also to connect with persons from so much different aspects of life with the different work, and also different areas that they are a part of. This circle has really opened up my eyes. So when I'm going back into my work, I will be able to create such a similar small circle with my teammates and my work colleagues, so that we can really keep the ball rolling. So I really did enjoy today's session.
Great, thanks. Tom Cobb.
Yeah, so to reflect on today, I think this empathy circle was a really impactful experience. Just the fact that everyone has their own lives, their own emotions, their own situations, their own solutions that they're going through, and just having this big circle to basically share thoughts and feelings, and then having that practice to reflect those thoughts with other people, I think is an incredibly valuable experience. And like everyone was saying today, from what I heard, was there's a lot of disconnection, and we're all trying to connect, and what better way to do it through an empathy circle. So that's what I got from it.
Great, thanks, Tom. And then I'll go to some of the old hands here. Ralph.
Well, I literally had 100 insights that came from your lives, and I could write an essay on this, and I'm even thinking of doing that. All the major themes of what you've been trying to do, Edwin, in the larger vision were represented here. I noticed, to share one thing in particular, that it's easy for me to look at deficits and mostly deficits in myself. Oh my gosh, especially listening to such a paragon of facilitation as Lou, to see, oh my gosh, I would have answered that differently and missed the mark. And I can switch it over and see the richness that was shared. Even people who said, I'm not so good at empathy, were empathic. And it occurred to me that it's not something that has to be forced, but it's something that exists in each of us as a capacity, as a drive even to connect. And that this is a process of birthing, or the image I sometimes use is learning to float in empathy. Because if you struggle in the water, you drown. But if you counterintuitively let go and trust mainly yourself, magic and miracles can happen.
Great. Thanks, Ralph.
Welcome.
Okay, next I'll call on the paragon of facilitation himself.
Oh, God.
For last.
Little drum roll. Woo! And good friend.
Yes, thank you. Well, part of me loves being seen that way, seen, period, and part of me is embarrassed to have so much attention. My heart is kind of bursting with joy at the richness of what we heard and all the sharing that has happened in the debrief here. God, I had so many things I wanted to say and they just went right out of my head. I think that, well, I wanted to say how much I enjoyed the people who participated in the circle and how much more I would love to just do more of a circle with you. And so I hope you will come back and I hope you will take the training. There's so many people here who seem to be moved by what we're doing or by this process and want to take it and do stuff with it. And I hope you will come and do the facilitator training so that we can get to know you more and so that you can build skill in holding your circles. So I really hope that you'll do that. And I want to say that I made a mistake as a facilitator. The very last round when Mariah asked me if I would reflect her, I said yes. And there are so many excellent listeners in this circle that after I did that, probably about 10 seconds or maybe 30 seconds after I did that, I regretted it because I wanted to give someone else a chance to be reflecting, because I reflected 2 or 3 times in the circle. So I just wanted to acknowledge that was a mistake I made as a facilitator.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to echo my appreciation for everyone here. I would like just people to consider how much we're conditioned to look at other people as the others, and how many defense mechanisms we have around us, and how naturally and easily those things melt away when people just show a basic amount of compassion and listening. And I think that speaks to the powerfulness within each of us of empathy and community, and how we're really geared to that. That's the natural state of human kindness, rather than, all the other stuff that we hear. So I'm really appreciate each of you coming here and taking that step. And I hope to see you in the facilitation training. And then I'll turn it over to Edwin for a final reflection and any kind of last words. Edwin.
Okay, thanks, Bill, and thanks, Lou, for facilitating that circle. So I just reiterate, the Empathy Circle is a really good first step practice for empathy, listening, skill building. It is sort of a gateway practice that is going to foster connection, understanding, mutual support. It's core to counseling. It's also core to conflict mediation. So I heard a lot of mediators were here. That this is sort of like the first step basic practice. You can do a lot of go a long way with this as a first step for mediation. It's simple to get started, but it's a lifelong to sort of develop that deeper mindset, that deeper culture of empathy. Someone mentioned, unfortunately he left, about looking up empathy. If I just look up empathy, on Wikipedia, will that kind of get it? but really it's more like exercise. You can read about exercise, you can be told about exercise, you can want to do exercise, but you only get the benefits by actually doing the exercise. And that's what we do here is the practice, 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 and invite you to, try it with your friends and family. Someone said their son is here. Try an empathy circle with your son. Say, let's sit down, let's have a little empathy circle. I think you'll really appreciate that, because you're actually doing it. So we're going to be here again next Friday. And you go to empathycircle.com. That's the gateway to the training and all the other, you can find the links to the social media, to LinkedIn, Facebook pages, for more updates. So again, like the others said, we'd love to see you next week in the empathy circles and in the training. And to close us out, we'll try some jazz hands, just sort of say goodbye. We like to have a little jazz hands goodbye and then if the trainers could stay back. Oh, let's get everybody. Let's get everyone. Alex, can we got to see you. Alex, can you, does your camera work? Oh, we got Lynn. Yeah, we got everybody. Okay. Great. Thanks. Good to see everyone. Really delight.
Great to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
See you next
Hope to
week.
see you again. Hope to see you again.